everyone, this is video number 3 in our DBT series. If you're new here, then I am Radhika and this is my YouTube channel DataZard. The agenda for this video is we're going to do our VS Code setup first. So for that, we're going to download VS Code and then add our DBT extension. Then we are going to do our AWS setup where we're going to set up the S3 bucket where we are going to store the data and also create an IAM role so that we can access this S3 bucket outside of AWS. Then we are going to do our Snowflake setup, and afterwards we're going to do the Git setup and create a GitHub repository where we are going to be adding all our data. Then lastly, we're going to be doing our DBT account setup. So now without further ado, let's get started. Now to download the VS Code or Visual Studio Code, you can go to this link code.visualstudio.com/download, and then you can download this as per your OS. So if you're on Windows, then you can use this. If you're on Linux, then this is the area to download it. And if you're on Mac, then you can use these links. So once you download it, you will have to just run the installer. And as soon as you run the installer, you can just open VS Code. You just have to press next, 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 and just do the default configurations as are there in that installer. And once you do that, you can open the Visual Studio Code, and this is how it is going to look. Now this is how the VS Code looks like when you open it. And now I'm going to open the folder. I will be creating this full project. So for that, I'll just click on open and then I will choose the folder location. So for that, I have done this. And now I have this folder HR Analytics DBT open on the left hand side. This is the folders menu. I don't have anything in the folder, that's why it's looking empty, but we will fill this later on in the upcoming videos. Now the second thing that we need to do in VS Code setup is we have to install the DBT extension. So for that, let us go to this extensions area, and when you will search DBT, you will see this power user for DBT extension. For me, I have already installed it, that's why it's showing to uninstall it. Otherwise, for you, it could be that if you have not installed it, then it will say install and you just have to click on install and it will get automatically installed for you. So this is the small extension that we need to add. This extension is really powerful and it will help us to preview things in the VS Code area itself so that we don't have to toggle between different windows. So this is a really powerful extension and I would highly recommend you adding this into your VS Code while we do this DBT project. Now the next thing that we need to do is create our AWS account, and in AWS account we first have to set up our S3 bucket and then later on create an IAM role so that we can access this S3 bucket. So for this AWS account, we're going to use free tier account. In this free tier, you will still have to provide your credit card while creating the account, but you will not be charged unless you're using services which are outside of this free tier or it has already used the credits that they have provided in the free tier. Thankfully for us, in our DBT project, we should be able to complete our DBT project in this free tier. So you don't have to worry about being charged by AWS for any of the services that you're using. So to create this account, we can just go to create a free account and you will have to provide your details like what is your email address that you need to use, what is the AWS account name that you need to use. Once you provide all those details, you can just provide your credit card detail and then just create this AWS account. As soon as you log in into your AWS account, this is the screen that will be visible to you. Now in this window, first we need to create our S3 bucket. So in the search bar, I will type S3 and search for this S3 bucket. Now in this S3 bucket, I'll click on create bucket and we need to give this bucket a name. So I'm going to say this HR data S3 bucket. This is the name of my bucket. I'm keeping the rest of the settings as is. So using the default what is provided by AWS, and then I'm going to click on create bucket. This bucket already exists. So I'm just going to rename this as HR Data Analytics S3 bucket. And now I'll click on create bucket. So your bucket name should be unique across account. So once this bucket is created, now I will click on this bucket to go inside it. And inside the bucket, we first have to create a folder. Now we need to create folder so that we have just one location where we access our data from. So that is why I'm creating this folder. So I'll do create folder, and I'm going to call this source HR data. This is the name of my folder, and I will click on create. Now inside this folder, so I'll click on this link to go inside the folder, and inside this folder I will be uploading the file. So I will provide that CSV file in the GitHub repository that we will be creating shortly, so that you can access it from there and download it and use it on your own. Now to upload the file, I will just click on upload and then choose add file. Then I'm going to choose my file, and this is the file that I have chosen, and now I will click on upload. So what we have done is we have this S3 bucket called HR Data Analytics S3 bucket. Inside that we have a folder called source HR data, and inside that we have stored our file. So this is the CSV file. Now the second thing that we need to do in AWS setup is we need to create an IAM role, because we need to access this data outside of this AWS window. And in order to do that, we need to create IAM role. You can think of this as when you are logging into your Instagram account, you have to provide your username and password. So you're providing some authentication details so that Instagram can say that yes, this is the authorized user and this is the account related to this particular authorized user. We are trying to mimic the same scenario using an IAM role here. So to do that, in the search bar, I'm going to type IAM and click on IAM. Now in this window, we will go to users because we need to create a user, and I will click on this create user. Now we need to give this user a name. So my name would be HR data IAM. You can keep a name whatever you prefer to keep. And now I'm going to click on next. Here we need to attach policies to it. So that's why I am using this attach policies directly. Now these policies means when we have this user, what all things in Amazon AWS account this user should have access to. There are thousands of things in this AWS setup, but the things that we need this particular user to access is the S3 bucket. So in this search bar, I'm going to type S3, and I need this user to have full access on my S3 bucket. So I will tick this Amazon S3 full access checkbox. Now once I have ticked this, I will click on next, and I will keep these as is, so the default configuration provided by AWS. And now I'm going to click on create user. Now once I have done this, I have created my user who has access to my S3 bucket. Next thing is, how do I access this user? Because this HR data IAM is just sitting in our AWS account, but we need to access this outside of AWS. And in order to do that, we need access key and access secret. So to generate that, I will click on this user and I will go to security credentials. And in security credentials, we will create access key. So I'll click on this create access key, and I'm just going to choose other and click on next. I'm not going to add any tags. I will just click on create access key, and this is our access key and secret access key. This is unique to your IAM role, and you should not share this with anybody. So I'm just going to copy this access key of mine and save it somewhere so that I can use it later on in our Snowflake setup. So keep these safe and please do not share this with anybody. And now I will click on done. Now let us revisit our agenda. So from this, we have created our VS Code download. Then we have added the DBT extension as well. Then have set up the S3 bucket, have uploaded the data on this S3 bucket as well. So this is also done. Then we have also created IAM role and have stored the access key and the secret as well in a safe location. Now the next thing to do is the Snowflake setup. So let's do that quickly. Now to create Snowflake account, you can go to signup.snowflake.com, and here you can just provide your first name, last name, work email. This could just be your personal email as well. And why are you signing up? Afterwards, it's going to ask you some other questions. Once you provide that, it will send you an activation link on your email address. You just have to activate it from there, and then you should be able to see a window something like this. Now here, we are just going to click on skip for now. Now in this home screen, we are first at home and we can see the overall view, like all the projects, files, notebooks, etc. that we have worked on. Then the most used section for us will be creating a new SQL file. So from this plus button, we can create this SQL file. And from here, we can write SQL queries, etc., whatever we want to do. On the bottom left corner, you can see the databases. So the database explorer will show you all the databases that exist. These are the databases that Snowflake has already created for me out of the box, and you should be able to see the same ones. At a later stage, we will be creating our own database for this HR analytics project. Then another important section is this bottom left corner, which is your name. So here you should be able to see your role. Currently it is account admin, and you should be able to see your account details when you hover over this account. So your account name is, like for me it is Radhika5062. Your account name will be shown similarly over here. If you click on these view account details, you should be able to see more granular information about your account, and we will be using this information at a later stage. So keep these handy. Now I will click on close. Now the first thing that we need to do is we need to create dedicated role so that our transformations can be run using DBT, and we are not going to use this account admin role which is provided by Snowflake. We don't want to use this because it is a security risk. So for this, the first thing that we need to do is we need to say use this account admin role, and using this create a role. So I am saying use role account admin, so that the next things that are going to happen, they're going to happen using this privilege. Next, we are going to create a dedicated role for transformations instead of using this account admin role. So this ensures that we have least privilege because account admin is having all the access. But with this new role, we are going to control the access that this particular role has. It isolates the transformations access from this particular admin access, and it makes it easy for us to audit the account and modify the permissions later on if we need to. So in order to create the role, what we are going to do is I'm going to write this particular statement. So essentially what I'm doing is creating role if it does not exist DBT role. So this is my role name, and later on I need to grant my account admin role this DBT role, so that later on whoever has this account admin, they can also log in as DBT role and maybe debug or modify, do anything with it. So we just want our account admin to have the DBT role permissions or privileges as well. So that is why we are going to have this grant role DBT role to role account admin line. So by this we are saying create this role, and then by this line we are granting permission of this DBT role to account admin. Now, if you look on the right hand side, we have these roles here, and then we have these warehouses. So with this warehouse, so Snowflake automatically gives us this compute WH warehouse as an inbuilt warehouse. So what these warehouses do is they provide the compute to run the SQL queries in Snowflake. And this is exactly what we need to do. We just need to run the queries on Snowflake so that we can create new schemas, we can create different tables, modify the tables, etc. So that compute is provided by this warehouse. And currently, we need to give this DBT role access to this compute underscore WH warehouse. So in order to do that, I'm going to run this particular line. Grant operate on warehouse compute WH to role DBT role. These are kind of self-explanatory, to be honest. So we are saying that this DBT role can operate on this particular compute WH warehouse. So using this DBT role on compute WH, we can run the SQL commands, create models, etc., and do the transformations. Then we have got the role. This role has access to operate this role has operate on access to warehouse compute WH, so it can use this compute WH warehouse. Now we need to create the user who's going to use this particular role, and to do that I'm going to use create user command. So We're going to say create user if not exist dbt user. So this is the name of our user. I'm just setting the password as dbt user 123, login name as dbt user, must change password. I'm just setting some attributes related to this particular user. So I'm saying must change password is false. Their default warehouse is compute wh because that's what we have given operate on for this particular role. Then their default role is dbt role, the role that we have created just above over here. Then the default namespace is HR Analytics. We're going to be creating this namespace and creating some schemas under this namespace. So we're going to be doing that later on. But we have said that this DBT user should have default namespace as HR Analytics. Then the type, which is legacy service. So why legacy service? Because this is not a human user. It is actually DBT using this role to operate on Snowflake so that it can create models and do transformations. So because it is not a human user, we are saying type as legacy service. Now I have got all of this information from this particular link in Snowflake documentation. It is called access control best practices, and I'm following these best practices so that I can assign the user, create the role, and do all of the things which I am doing. So I have referenced this particular documentation. I will put the link down in the description below. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we have just created this user. We have to give this user this particular role. And to do that, we are saying grant role dbt role to the user dbt user. So whatever user we have created here, we need to assign this to dbt role. So whatever privileges we have set in this dbt role will be given to this particular user. Now let's run these queries because we have not run them. So I'm just going to run them one by one. So running this one. I've already run some of these commands previously when I was testing, so that's why it's saying these roles and etc. they already exist. But for you, they might be created newly. So now we have done these. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to create a database for us. If you see on the left hand side, currently these are all the databases that Snowflake has already provided to us, like as in built-in databases. We need to create our own database. And to do that, I'm going to run this particular command, which is create database. So let's do this. Create database if not exist, HR Analytics. So this is my database name. Now in this database, we can have multiple schemas. For now, our schema would be a staging schema. And to create that, I'm going to use create schema commands. So the command will be create schema if not exist, HR Analytics.staging. So we are creating this schema under HR Analytics. Now, if I refresh here, you would see that HR Analytics is created as a database. And in this, we have other schemas, but which are already provided by Snowflake. But the one which we are interested in is the staging schema that we have created using this particular command. There are a lot of permissions that we need to grant here. So let's do these quickly. We are granting all on warehouse compute WH to DBT role. So this role can operate on this particular warehouse, which means it can run queries using this compute provided by this particular warehouse. Then we are granting all on database HR Analytics to role DBT role, which means we are saying that this DBT role has privileges to access everything on this particular database. Then grant all on all schemas in database HR Analytics to role DBT role, which means we are saying that whatever schemas are existing in this HR Analytics database, whichever are currently existing in this schema, which is staging, public information schema, all of these schemas, this DBT role can access all of these schemas. Then grant all on future schemas in the database HR Analytics to DBT role, which means in future when we will be using DBT, then we will be creating different schemas, bronze, silver and gold. So those schemas should also be accessible by this DBT role, and we are saying if there are any future schemas in this database, then this DBT role should be able to access them as well. Next, grant all on all tables in schema in HR Analytics.staging to DBT role. So whatever tables are existing in this HR Analytics staging schema, this DBT role should have access to all those tables. And lastly, grant all on future tables in schema HR Analytics.staging to role DBT role. Again, it's very descriptive. So it's saying this DBT role should have access to future tables which will be created in this HR Analytics staging schema. So now let's run these one by one. So I'm just going to run this. Then the next one is this. Then I'm going to execute the third grant, then the fourth one, then the fifth one, and lastly this one. So now we have given all the permissions, have created the role, have created the user, everything is set up now. I'm just going to call this initial setup so that it gets saved over here. Now what we have done till now for Snowflake is we have created the Snowflake account. We have created role inside Snowflake so that we can use this role for accessing Snowflake from dbt. Then we have created the user for this particular role. Then we have created our database, which is HR Analytics database. And then we have created schema inside it, which is called as staging. And we have granted permissions. Now in this particular HR Analytics database and this particular schema, we don't have data currently. So we need to load data right now. We know that our data currently sits in S3 bucket on AWS. Now we need to load this inside Snowflake. Now in Snowflake, there are multiple options to load the data from. And whatever the file location is over here, it is called as stage in Snowflake. So if I'm saying stage, that means whatever the location of file is on any cloud storage that we are referencing to get the data from or load the data to, it is called as stage. So stage is just the location of the data. From this stage, we can copy the data into Snowflake using copy command. So there is a command called as copy into, and then we provide the table name, and using this command we can just copy the data from this stage into Snowflake. Now this copy command, it supports both bulk data as well as continuous data. What do we mean by bulk data? Bulk data is we're just loading the data at once from one particular location, and then it will always be in bulk. But continuous data is we are loading small batches of data and in an incremental fashion into the Snowflake account. So these are the two differences between bulk and continuous data. We can also think of this as batch and streaming. These are the two general terms that are used. So this is batch data and this is streaming data, and copy into command supports both of these forms. This also supports external stage as well as internal stage. Now, I already mentioned that stage means file location where our data is stored. Now, for external stages, this could be our AWS storage, this could be our Google Cloud, or this could be our Azure storage. So these are external stages which are available in Snowflake, and internal stages could be users, tables. So internal stage means this is inside your Snowflake account. This is also supported by copy into account, and external stage, which means the data is located in some other cloud platform and we are trying to bring that into Snowflake. So this is external stage because it is outside of Snowflake on AWS, GCP or Azure, and copy into command supports both internal stage as well as external stage. And you have guessed it right that for our use case, because our data is stored on AWS S3 bucket, we are going to use external stage. So now the first thing that we need to do is define the stage, which means we have to define the location to Snowflake that, hey, you have to go here and get the data from here. So I'm going to use the other SQL notebook here, and I'm going to call this get data .sql, and I'm going to be storing all the commands related to fetching the data from AWS S3 over here. Now the command that is used to create the stage is create or replace stage Snowflake AWS S3 stage. This is the name of the stage that I have given. You can choose any that you like. Then credentials. We have to provide credentials so that our Snowflake can connect to our AWS account and authorize that it is the right connection. And for that, if you remember, the last step of AWS IAM role setup, we were given AWS key and the secret key. So that is exactly what we will have to add in over here. Then we have to provide the file format. So what is the file format that Snowflake should be looking for? This is provided over here. And then the URL. What is the URL of that particular cloud storage where this needs to be, where Snowflake needs to go and get the data from? So this is providing the URL, and then this is providing the credentials for accessing this URL so that it is authorized. So these are the things that we need to provide. Now for the file format, we will first need to create a named file format, and to do this I'm going to use this particular command. So it is create or replace file format if not exists, CSV format AWS. This is what I'm naming my format as, and the type should be CSV because on AWS we have our CSV file. Then the field delimiter should be comma because again it is comma separated values, so our delimiter is a comma. And then skip headers is equal to 1 because there is header present, so we can just skip it. And error on column count mismatch, so if there is a column mismatch then we are saying make it as false. So this is what I'm describing as my file format, and I'm going to provide this over here, so use this as the file format. Then we have to provide URL here, so this URL we will be able to get from our AWS S3 bucket. So let's go to our bucket and I will sign in again. So I have signed back in. Now I will go to our S3 bucket. And remember that in this S3 bucket, we created a folder, source HR data. So I will click on this, and from here, we can copy this S3 URI. So remember that you have to go inside the folder and then copy this S3 URI. So now that I've copied this, I will go back to my Snowflake account and provide this URL. So I will add this over here. So it is S3 HR Data Analytics S3 bucket. So this is my bucket name and this is my folder name. It's essentially this. So you have copied this. And now I'm just going to add my AWS access key and secret key here. I will do this and come back here. And I will also run these commands. So first you will have to run this create or replace file format command because we are going to use this file format command over here. So now to run this file format, I'm just going to select this and run. So it has been created successfully. So if we refresh over here in HR Analytics, in staging, we should be able to see file format that has been created. And this is the exact file format that we have defined. Now I'm just going to paste my AWS access key and secret key and run this command so that the stage gets created. I'm not showing this because it is unique to my account. So I will just do this and quickly come back over here. Now I added my access key and secret key here, and then when I ran the command, then I can see that stage area Snowflake AWS S3 stage has been created. And if we look over here, like refresh it, so in HR Analytics, go into staging, and you should be able to see Snowflake AWS S3 stage created. So this we have just defined that, hey Snowflake, go over there and get the data. Now we have to copy the data. And like I said in my presentation earlier, that we have to use copy into table command to get the data from this external stage, which is S3 stage, into our table. So first we will need to create a table in staging because we don't have any table. So for that, let us use the create command. So now this is the command to create, or this is the query to create or replace the table HR data. So I'm calling the table as HR data in our staging schema. And these are all the columns with their data types that I have listed. And we can just run this command as we have selected HR Analytics as database and staging as schema over here. That is why we can just directly run this. And when I will be doing this, HR data table would be created in this staging schema. So let's just do this quickly. This is plain create table statement or create table query in SQL. So it's very simple to run. And now as soon as I refresh this, I am able to see a table which is called as HR data. Now we can just query this table. So I can say select star from HR underscore analytics. This is our database, then staging. This is our schema, and then HR underscore data. So now as soon as I run this, I should be able to see all the columns here. Currently it will be empty because we don't have any data, and we have to get the data from the AWS stage that we have created into this particular table. And remember that we need to use the copy into command for this. So the copy into command is copy into the table name that we have created. So HR Analytics staging HR data. Then from Snowflake AWS S3 stage, the stage that we have created over here. So we have told Snowflake this is the file location. Then the files. So what is the file name? So I have given the file name. You can just go to your S3 account and check your file name. Then we give the credentials. So again, like you did before, over here you've provided your AWS access key and secret key. Similarly, you have to do the same over here and run this command. So I will provide the access key and secret key here and then run this and come back again here. So now I have run this particular query and you can see that my file has been loaded. Now if I run this command again, I should be able to see 1470 rows because these many rows were there existing in my CSV file. So now we were able to successfully get our data from AWS S3 bucket into our Snowflake. Till now we have covered VS Code installation, VS Code DBT extension, Amazon S3 setup, and Amazon IAM role. And we have also covered how to set up Snowflake and get data from AWS S3 into Snowflake. This video has already become too long, so I will be shooting the GitHub setup, GitHub repository setup, and DBT account setup in the next video. So it will be coming in part 2. I hope you were able to understand how to do all of these setups, and this is just one time setup that you need to do, and later on we will just be coding DBT using SQL. So I hope you have enjoyed this particular video. If you have any questions, then please put them down in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in my next one.